It's unique. It's one of a kind.
A slice of Americana.
It gives order out of chaos.
Oh, it's marvelous.
It's just such a special day.
All Schools Day is a week chock full of family fun activities, but its beginnings were much more simple. In the early 1900s, County School Superintendent I.C. Meyer traveled countywide to deliver diplomas to 8th grade graduates. For many country students, receiving their diplomas was the final chapter in their education. Meyer approached McPherson merchants to sponsor a county-wide graduation ceremony for the 8th grade students. The creation of All Schools Day brought thousands to town and gave citizens a chance to celebrate their most important mission, the education of youth.
Wow, just the magnitude of people, and you look down the street and all the chairs and the people and the movement.
McPherson swells to about 30,000 people on Main Street that day. And when you say 30,000 people, it kind of puts it in perspective considering that McPherson is half that size.
When he told me we were going to see a parade, I pictured a car, maybe a horse, and I was just blown away. It's not like a normal parade.
When it comes to All Schools Day, it's kind of like church. You don't steal someone else's spot.
There are people that will get there at 6:30 to set their chairs where they want to be.
And they hold their spot, and if you take their spot, it's gonna be on.
Yeah.
Doyle Davidson dresses up like Uncle Sam, and he is the first one to march down.
I live here in McPherson. I've been here since 1964, and I started my Uncle Sam's role with the All Schools Parade in 1968. A lot of tradition in our Kansas heritage, and things of this type in different communities should be carried on in honor of those and the history that we've enjoyed from our ancestors over the past 200 years, you know.
I perform as a clown. I do jokes and tricks, and I make sure I try to give candy to all the kids, and I can pick them out where they're sitting at because they always sit the same places every year, and they count on you saying hi to them. They make sure they let you know that they're there again. It keeps the town closer together, I feel. I mean, because it was something that started 100 years ago, so something must be right about McPherson of having this going on for this long.
It's probably one of the easier chairmanships I've ever had because everybody knows what they're doing and they do it, and all you have to do is make sure, you know, kind of make sure it's happening.
My most memorable All Schools Day was May 14th, 2010. It's when my firstborn arrived. It was on All Schools Day Friday. I was the treasurer at the time as well, and so it was quite interesting. My husband had to bring me the All Schools Day folder and the checkbooks, and so I was writing out checks and bills right there in the hospital room.
Our whole department comes in on Friday to work all the activities and the parades.
And from anything that would happen in the parks to even using some of the city buildings for float building. The city's trying to help out in every way possible to make sure that that success continues the way it has been for the past 99 years.
Community festivals are really a wonderful moment in time for communities. They find something that over time has helped carve out and define who they are. This is part of us. This speaks to who we were and who we've become, and really who we hope to continue to be.
the high school, we consider preparing our kids to be citizens equally as important as preparing them for a career or to go to college. So this is a great experience for my kids to do community service.
It's not just, all of the cool people and all of the not so cool people. It's making sure that those barriers are dropped for All Schools Day.
It's amazing the creativity that these people come up with. They've had, in the last 10 years, some really, really good floats.
It's all about that 2 or 3 hours where you've got to make sure that float stays
I don't know how many times they said, it's only got to last 2 hours, it's only got to last 2 hours.
You pray for good weather, you pray that you're not going to have a lot of rain, you're not going to have a lot of wind, because
there's a lot of cardboard and a lot of staples and a lot of tape.
There's glowing eyes and there's smoke coming out for the fire.
We've had our floats get a little too big because we had a little too much fun. We've had to kind of scrunch them down or let the air out of the tires to get them out of the building. It doesn't matter how many times you measure the door, you still come up a smidgen too big.
Did you guys dress up?
No. Oh yeah, we had a hat and the boys had a shield. Yeah.
It was always hard to get people to show up and to help, but you always had the 5 or 6 or 7 that came every time and worked on it. Still, hang out with them and know their kids real well and stuff just because of that experience building a float.
I'm amazed at the early floats on what the kind of work they did, because you have to recognize that a lot of the early floats were older cars and they had draped chicken wire over those, over 2x4s or 1x4s, and stuffed the chicken wire with napkins.
I was, almost 5. I was 4 years old, and I went to Mrs. Robinson's play school. You'd call it a daycare now, but we just went a half a day, and we had a float in the 1941 parade. It was a float was a merry-go-round on a trailer, and the horses were painted on the round merry-go-round, and we'd sit behind like we were riding the horses,
Coupled with, as long as there has been a May Day celebration, I believe, is the May Fete. I think people have always considered that as part of the May Day celebration.
May Fete is a production that we held at the band shell and now at McPherson High School Roundhouse for all the students in the county that want to participate. And it's not a talent show, but just a time to come together and entertain. We are also in charge of the royalty, and we have May Queens from each county school, a May King, a Flower Girl, and a Crown Bearer.
A boy and girl get dressed up, and 2 kindergartners get dressed up too. Big people and little people get dressed up.
My year as May Queen was 1941. It didn't seem right because I'd lost my folks that year in the car accident. And they also, for the first time, held the May Day Fete here in the local park where the band shell is. So that was all different in those days.
The first maypole I found was wound in 1931, and that has been a tradition ever since.
Kids want to do that. They want to be a part of that, and they understand the history. And that's just something that's really cool and neat, I think, given all the video game culture and all the things that we have today, that people still think these traditional values are something that they still want.
Actually, the carnival is part of the May Day experience. The carnival comes into town earlier, and when you're a kid, the carnival is a big deal.
Contrary to popular belief, the carnival is the #1 fundraiser for All Schools Day. If I had a nickel for every time somebody said, "How much do you pay for Toby to come?" I'd be a rich person.
We've been coming since 1963. My grandfather was involved in All Schools Day celebration when Broadback and Schrader was in charge of providing the carnival there. And that probably goes back into the late 40s or early 50s.
Carnival was always a big thing. Kids hung out down there. $1 would go a long way then.
Madathon is this crazy kid Olympics. That's what I call it. We put on events for every 5th grader and every 8th grader in McPherson County. So the kids form teams, and the teams come in and do crazy events, everything you ever wanted to do as a kid. So you always want to throw a pie in your dad's face, well, you can do that, and you always wanted to, you know, throw water balloons and toss eggs and all that kind of good stuff. That's what we do in Madathon.
The first year in 1977, it was called the Zany Superstars. Only there wasn't much interest from the kids, so the committee decided to offer this to the adults, and that's how it started. In 1989, the All Schools Day Committee decided to offer the event to kids.
One of the highlights for a lot of the kids, I think, besides getting to do that slide at the end, is the Mentos bomb. Very simple. A Mentos pill, bottle of Diet Coke, drop pill and bottle, you know what happens.
Competitive. Well, we wanted to be cheerleaders, but like our other school team kind of had like a little rival going on with this team over here, so it turned into a rivalry thing.
So we did away with all the scorekeeping, and instead we give prizes, lots of prizes. The community's great about that. And the prizes that we give are for things like sportsmanship and spirit. And what we've seen then when we did that is, like when water balloon volleyball's done, all the kids, you know, crush the field to go pick up the water balloons because they want to do the right thing.
Having traditions is kind of the main fabric of your community. Tradition, to me, indicates that it's something that people have appreciated over the years and want to pass on. And in today's environment, tradition is not quite as important as it used to be, and I think it should be.
There's no other towns that that I know about that has a May Day parade and all the events that go along with May Day. So it's really special to our town.
It gets so deeply ingrained in your psyche. It is a huge comfort. Really, it is part of the magic of McPherson, and you know, I credit those entrepreneurially minded downtown merchants who came up with it, and I think it reflects to some degree the seriousness with which education is taken in McPherson County.
I think overall that human nature does want to come together, does want to celebrate wholesome things. And that's important. This is a very wholesome thing that rallies people together, and we need more of these things throughout our entire society.
It's fun to be able to jump in as a newbie and just join right into that tradition. I mean, it's not a stuck-up tradition where it's certain families can exceed in it. It's the community, and they invite everybody to join in those traditions, which I think is great.
But the celebration really is this: we're going to grow these children, and they're going to come from these young kids to middle school and high school kids, and then they're going to leave us and they're going to come back, and it's that I guess that life education, and it's shown on that day or that week, but it's also shown throughout the year and throughout every day. Mayor Brown may pick up the phone and say, "Randy, I need this from the school," or vice versa. You know, we try to make it happen.
If you can find a point in your community that's a sense of pride, and for us it's been students and education. If you can come together and you can look past your differences for that one day, it'll help in future because you can maybe see that bigger picture.
Well, you know, you think about tradition, you think about family, and by having this as a tradition, it makes McPherson one big family.
Throughout its 100-year history, education has remained at the heart of the celebration. Countless students have marched in the parade, danced around the maypole, or ridden on a Ferris wheel. Families have spread out blankets for picnics, laid back and watched the fireworks, and taken time from their busy lives to come together. All Schools Day is a century-long tradition that is uniquely McPherson, yet resounds across communities all over the United States. It's a celebration of youth, of friends, of community, and of our hometown.